Verse 36. This is the dream. Now we will tell the interpretation of it before the king. You, O king, are king of kings, for the Elohim of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and honor. And wherever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field and the birds of the heaven, he has given them into your hand and has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. But after you shall rise another kingdom, the Persians, inferior to yours. Then, and that is to show also that, just like the metals, history, just like everything in this reality, I mean, anything, you can buy something that is completely new, set it aside and never use it, and after a couple years it won't be the same, just because of the environment, just because everything in this reality decays. So just like every object, everything that has matter decays, so does time. Because time and space were a creation for matter to exist within it and have a time. So time itself is breaking down, if you want to put it like that, is decaying, because we're coming to the end. So just like everything decays in this reality, so did humans, the kingship, wisdom, and everything else. So that's why, even though Babylon was a negative kingdom compared to the kingdoms that came after, it was great. It was the best. So that would mean that before Babylon there was one that was better, before that one there was something that was better, and I mean the time before that. That's why Shlomo said that there is never wisdom in the question, why are the times worse than before? Why nowadays the times are so bad when compared to back in the day? There's never wisdom in that question, because it is just logical. That's how it works. That's why right now everything that is happening with the coronavirus and with the economy and with the locusts that are eating a bunch of the food in several parts of the world now, hurricanes, earthquakes, homosexuality, and a bunch of other things. So it's just a sign that we are in the end of the creation called time. But after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to yours, then another, a third kingdom of bronze, that is the Greek Empire, which shall rule over all the earth through Alexander the Great. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron. Rome, the Roman Empire, was as strong as iron, but it didn't have the honor and splendor that Babylon had. Inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything. So we're seeing here the connection with the other part that I was reading in Psalm and Revelation, how the last comes as a Roman, and Yahweh takes him to break in pieces the kings of the earth and destroy the nations that do not accept the Almighty, pretty much, as king. So that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. That's how Rome has acted ever since its creation. Then it became the papacy, so it hid behind the priesthood, but behind closed doors, still controlling a bunch of the destruction that happens in the world for gain and for many other reasons, control and whatever. So verse 41, whereas you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron. This is very important, this verse. The kingdom shall be divided. So the easy interpretation, or the literal, well, actually the literal will be very clear and not as easy, but the easy interpretation of this, and what I mean is what most people would actually see and hear and explain about it, is that just like Yahushua said that a house divided will fall. So when they were saying that he was casting out Satan, being himself possessed by a demon, made no sense. It made no sense, Satan fighting himself. So that's why Yahushua is telling them, if that was the case, then we know that his kingdom has already fallen, because he's divided. So Yahushua was showing how he was actually the Almighty, taking out evil from this world, yet people were actually seeing him as evil for doing so, which is amazing. That's how evil people were. And if they were that evil 2,000 years ago, and as I already said, as time works in generations, and this reality, imagine how bad this generation is regarding the thoughts of their hearts, what they think of the Almighty, what they think of the scriptures, what they think of Mashiach, etc. And what they would think of the two witnesses. They will hate the two witnesses so much because of that fact that they just speak the truth and people don't like the truth anymore. They rather have political correctness and a bunch of other things. And since politicians lie all the time, then that means that being politically correct means lying just to please people and get their vote. So it is very sad that that is the time in which we are living, but it's very great in the sense that it means we are approaching eternity. We are approaching the actual life that won't decay. So whereas you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. So that means it's going to fall. Since gold was so great, and then it started going down, silver, which is less precious, then Greece, then Rome, which was very strong. But in the end times, it became very weak because it became divided. And there are many reasons or ways in which that happened or how it could be interpreted, but I will continue. Yet the strength of the iron shall be in it. So the kingdom of the end times, the new world order, will have the strength of Rome. So he uses Rome for that strength. That's why the beast of Revelation 13 uses Rome, the false prophet, to control the world. Because Rome has that strength over the world. Now spiritually, is controlling the minds of a third of the world who are or claim to be Catholics. Well, and a third, I mean also with a bunch of others that may not claim to be Catholics, but Christians who will eventually go back to Catholicism, or at least the religion of the world that will be formed through it. So, just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay, the strength of the iron shall be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile. So because of that division and because of the two substances that form this kingdom, it will have strength but also a very weak part, a fragile part. Like society itself nowadays, they are so fragile that they cannot hear the truth, that they have to be politically correct. That is so sad that they are using the excuse of racism to, as they call it, cancel a bunch of things, showing actually themselves as racist when they claim that objects or images, which and I mean of products and stuff like that, they're taking out logos and stuff like that because they claim it is racist. But the racism is in their hearts and their eyes when they see something and claim that is hateful towards somebody. It is an object. The hate comes from that person's perspective. So it is so sad that there's so many people claiming to be such humanist and loving people and accepting people, but they are showing through their actual arguments that they are very racist and they are very hateful. So anyways, the society nowadays is like this. But what Daniel is trying to tell us is something even higher than that, or deeper. So it says, as you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle. Listen, as you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men. The seed of men is the sperm. So if they will mingle with the seed of men, then who are they? Because they are not men, since they are mingling with the seed of men. So there are a couple things to see here. First of all, Yahushua told us that the coming of the Son of Man would be like the days of Noah. When we go to the days of Noah, we read that the angels came down and had sex with the women, the daughters of Adam. They mixed with them, and they had children to the angels, and those children became giants. The Nephilim in Hebrew, the Nephilim, who happened to be really huge in size, but they were called Nephilim, fallen ones. So the angels came down and mixed with the women, and there were some creatures that were formed in that time by using the women. And those creatures started ruling the earth and destroying humanity, and that's why Yahweh sent the flood to destroy them, because they were corrupting humanity by teaching them to sin in greater ways than they knew already. So, as the days of Noah, so shall it be the days of the Son of Man. So we are reading here, first of all, just like Noah would go and preach, so the Son of Man. People, for some reason, they just don't take in account that specific fact. If Yahushua said that the coming of the Son of Man would be like the days of Noah, Noah was on earth and he was preaching and he was preparing an ark for his family. So that means that the Son of Man comes and he will preach and he will prepare a place for his people, the chosen few. But they don't take that in account, and it's very sad how they interpret scriptures when it is actually clear, thanks to the Most High, when we read it carefully and obviously through the spirit of the Son, Yahushua. Just like in the days of Noah, angels mixed with men, with the women, to create the Nephilim, so shall be in the days of the Son of Man, when the kingdom of the end, the feet, would be a mix of iron, which represents the angels, and clay, which represents humans, because we were made of clay. We were made using the dust of the earth mixed with a little bit of water, and then Yahweh Elohim gave form to our bodies. Well, to the body of Adam, and then gave the soul, and then he started multiplying. The point is, as it is written also, that the body of the humans is made of dust, and then it returns to dust when he dies. That's why people are buried. So men are made of clay. That's what the seed of man is being represented by here, by the clay. And the iron represents the angels. When it comes to Rome, there is a story regarding the origin of Rome. Romulus, for instance, the two brothers who were taken care of by a she-wolf, according to the mythology or the story, but some say that they were actually sons of a whore, represented by that she-wolf. And some say that she had sex with the god of war, that Mars, which is Samael, and that is how she had the twins, who became the rulers, or well, one of them, the one who created Rome. So that she-wolf or whore represents the great whore of Babylon coming through Rome. And according to that story, or one of the stories, the twins, children of this woman, they would be Nephilim, according to one of the stories, because they were sons of the god of war. According to some books also, if I'm not mistaken, one of them by Josephus, he says that from one of the sons of Esau, which we see also in the book of Yashar, so there is truth to this fact. But in the middle, an angel could have come down and have sex with a woman for Rome to be started. So that is a possibility, because it happened back in the day, so it can happen, because Yahweh said that there were Nephilim in that time and afterwards. So it is possible for that story to have part of truth. But according to the book of Yashar and other writings, Rome came from Esau, or Edom, the brother of Jacob. That is why in Isaiah 63, we see that Yahweh will come dressed in red from Edom, just like Jacob dressed as Esau to get the blessing. Esau became Edom. That was his nickname. So, just like Jacob dressed as Esau to get the blessing from his father, the last will be dressed as a Roman from Edom to get the blessing from the Most High. So, clay represents the humans, iron, the angels who gave origin, or in this case, the angel Samael who gave origin to Rome. So that would mean that the angels and the humans would mix again in the end times, like in the days of Noah, because they would be like the days of the Son of Man. And there is also a possibility that part of it, or the whole thing, has been happening through what they call abductions. The stories of extraterrestrials taking people, abducting people, and putting babies in females, or taking the sperm from men to mix it up with their whatever matter they're made of, and create what we see in the parable as tares. The wheat and the tares, they would grow together and they would look alike. They would seem to be the same, but in the harvest, one can clearly see the wheat because it's the one that bows to the ruach that goes over them, but the tare stays straight, as in giving no honor to the spirit, the ruach, the wind. And that's how you realize what are tares and what are wheat, because the weight of the wheat makes it bow while the tare doesn't. The wheat and the tares, the two kinds of people that would exist in the end times, represented also here by the tares being iron mixed with clay. So I hope that's clear. And as you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of man. That is, it should be clear. With the seed of man. The seed of man is sperm. If they mix with the seed of man, it's because they are not men. So they are something else. And that would be angels. But they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. Because of that division, the kingdom is going to fall. Because of the fact that the beast hates the whore of Babylon, even though they will get together to control the world, they will eventually end up falling. Because they are angels and the other ones are humans. What they are going to do by mixing their genes will actually create their destruction. So it says, just as iron does not mix with clay. And in the days, this is important also, the whole chapter, but I repeat this because we see so many verses that go against the Christian doctrine. Perhaps that's one of the reasons why they avoid the Old Testament so much. There are so many verses that go against what the Christian pastors teach as absolute truth without showing it in scriptures, only using one or two verses taken out of context. This is one of those. Christians believe that Jesus, as they call their Messiah, will pass over them and take him out of this world during the rapture, and then the 7 years will happen. Some Christians believe that that would happen at the very end. Some believe that it will happen in the middle. Those who believe that it will happen in the middle are the ones that are closer to the truth. However, the rapture as they teach it is wrong. That is one thing. And in Daniel, we're going to see a bunch of those contradictions with the Christian doctrine. So here's one. Verse 44. And in the days of these kings, he's talking about the 10 toes. Just like the statue represented all the kingdoms, and the feet represented the kingdom of the end times, the feet have 10 toes. Each of those toes represents a king that would have control of the world in the end times. We see this later in Daniel also with a beast that has 10 horns. Each of those horns is a king. Out of those 10 horns, a little horn will come out. And when that little horn comes out, which is the beast, 3 of the first horns will be taken away. So there will be 7 horns with the little horn, which represents what we see, Micah or Micaiah, the prophet, who says that the last comes with 7 disciples, just like Yahushua the first came with 12. 12 representing the tribes for whom Yahushua came, and 7 representing the nations for whom the last comes to rule them with a rod of iron. So, 1 with 7, the last with 7 disciples to represent the nations. That's why the beast, who copies everything that Yahweh does, will have 7 horns to rule with him after taking out 3, because originally there will be 10 as the 10 toes. And this is important because here he's speaking of the 10 toes. He's not speaking of the 7. And he's saying this: and in the days of these kings, the Elohim of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. When Yahushua came, they told him, when are you going to set up the kingdom? And Yahushua told them, it is not for you to know the times. You can read it in Acts 1. It is not for you to know the times, because they had 2,000 years to go. It would be sad to them if they realized how long still this world had to go. So it was not for them to know the times. But we come in the end times. Yahweh gives us knowledge, for instance, of the times. And like I said, 10 kings among whom the earth will be divided. So each of those kings will rule over a part of the earth. Then of those 10, another one will come out, and of those 10, 3 will fall. And that one will receive the kingdom from the remaining 7. So my point is, and I'm going ahead of myself a little bit, but I hope nobody gets confused. In Revelation, we see that the beast will rule, and also in Daniel, the little horn will rule 42 months. 42 months, 3 years and a half. We also see that the beast starts to come out in public, pretty much, as in to be seen and worshipped and accepted as king or world leader, starting with the 2nd seal. But he becomes the world leader pretty much on the 5th seal, pretty much, because he's taken out of the power, he's taken out of the authority or the world during the 5th last plague, the bowl of wrath. So since he lasts 3.5 years, that's why I placed it in the 5th seal, from 5th seal to 5th last plague. But he will start coming out during the 2nd seal. I say that because the 2 witnesses start on the 1st seal. So the first witness, the witness like Moshe, starts preaching on the 1st seal for the same amount of time that the beast will rule, 3.5 years. However, it is counted by days, 1,260 days instead of 42 months. So 42 months makes reference to the beast, 1,260 days to the teaching of the 2 witnesses. So the witness will start preaching during the time of the 10 toes. And then the beast will come out, and 3 of those 10 toes will be ripped apart. 3 of those 10 horns, when the one comes out to rule as world leader, as Revelation 13 shows. So we see it here because it says, and in the days of these kings, the 10, the Elohim of heaven will set up a kingdom. So Yahushua told them, it's not for you to know the time. I'm not setting up the kingdom yet, because Yahushua came as the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. So the last comes as the king with a rod of iron to set up the kingdom. So through his teaching during 1,260 days, by giving the names and the knowledge of the true Elohim and true doctrine to the 144,000, he would be establishing the kingdom, because he would be giving kingship and priesthood to each of the 144,000, as Yahweh promised on Revelation 1:6, among other verses. So, in the days of these kings, the Elohim of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. So the kingdom, Yahweh, even though Yahushua told us that the kingdom was already here, that was in the spiritual sense. He came to offer it and allow us to enter it through the forgiveness of sins. But the actual establishment of it in the physical sense, in the literal sense of it, will happen during the second coming. When the 10 kings are ruling, Yahweh will start to raise the kingdom that will last forever. And just like gold went to silver, silver to bronze and bronze to iron, in this case, this kingdom will not pass ever, will last forever. So it shall break in pieces, just like it talked about Rome. Rome did break in pieces, but now Daniel is talking about the kingdom that Yahweh is establishing. And he's saying that it will break in pieces, just like Rome did, showing that he's going to do it through the last, who comes as a Roman, dressed as Edom, dressed in red, with a rod of iron to break in pieces the nations. So, break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms. Consume, because he comes as a Roman, so break in pieces. But he also comes as the consuming fire, so he's going to consume all these kingdoms. Just like Yahushua came as the water of life, the last comes as the consuming fire. So he will consume all those kingdoms. So, break in pieces, because he comes with a rod of iron as a Roman. Consume all these kingdoms, consuming fire, as a king. And it shall stand forever. And it shall stand forever. Inasmuch as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands. This is so important. Inasmuch as you saw that the stone, as we know, the stone is the cornerstone, Yahushua HaMashiach. The stone, which is the base, the foundation, Yesod in Hebrew. The beginning of the temple that we would build by being part of that temple through our belief in Him, being connected to that cornerstone, which is Yahushua. The beginning of all things, the first, the Word through whom everything was created. The fact that it says that the stone was cut out from the mountain represents the kingdom of heaven. So from heaven, there was a stone that was cut out without a human hand. That means two things. In the physical sense, it means that there was no man who had sex with a woman for him to be born. He was born through a virgin. There was no help from any man for him to be cut out into the world. But in the spiritual sense, it represents the second coming, meaning that is Yahweh Himself who prepares the last. Not any man, not any teacher, not any pastor, any rabbi, any school, theology, or whatever. Nobody, no human will give form or cut the stone that Yahweh sends to destroy the kingdoms of the earth. So just like the first came through a virgin, the last, without the help of a man, will be formed into what he has to become, meaning the good shepherd, the king, who has the rod of iron, the overcomer, he who overcomes, the conqueror of Revelation 6, etc. So that's why when it said, you watched while a stone, first and last, was cut out without hands through a virgin, and Yahweh Himself is the one who forms or cuts out and prepares the last for His teaching of the 144,000. Was cut out without hands, which struck the image on his feet. On his feet, we see through this that it mainly represents the second coming, because Yahushua came when Rome was just starting. So He came when basically the ties. Yahushua came when the time of this statue was at the ties. But now we see that the stone that is cut out without hands hits the feet. That means that is at the end times, after 2,000 years, at the end of those two legs, on the 2 feet, the last comes as a stone cut out from the kingdom of heaven without hands, without the help of a human. So, it is at the end times that the last has to come to establish the kingdom on earth as the Melech Gadol, to fulfill that which the disciples were hoping to get from Yahushua 2,000 years ago. So, struck the image on its feet of iron and clay. So the last comes to destroy the kingdom of the beast through the teaching, the sword that comes out of his mouth. So, inasmuch, going back to 45, inasmuch as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. That is huge, because even though it hits the feet, it destroys the whole thing. Hits the feet, and it defeats the enemy. Destroys all the kingdoms from Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, and the New World Order that they are preparing and pretty much establishing already. They only need the leader. So, inasmuch as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, look how it puts the clay in the middle. The iron, Rome. The bronze, Greece. The two kingdoms that have passed. Then the clay, which is humanity itself, right in the middle, which has been controlled by all those other empires, which have been controlled by angels, fallen angels. So the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. Silver and gold, Persian and Babylon. Then it says, the great Elohim has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The dream is certain, and its interpretation is sure. So Daniel was completely sure that he didn't miss the mark regarding the interpretation of the dream. And it's obvious because it is written and it has been fulfilled like 90% of it already to the T.